Hey, it's 10:31. People are still working their way in, but I think we'll get started. Um, Welcome to Repair Cafe 101. We're very, very happy that you could join us. I'm Joanne Fedek, and I'm the Executive Director of the Saskatchewan Waste Reduction Council. Um, and I'll start by just doing a bit of housekeeping. So we're on Zoom today. Feel free to use the chat to let everybody know who you're with and what brings you here today if you like. Also, if you have any questions for the presenters as we're going through, please use the chat feature to log them and we'll get to them at the end. Okay, I'm going to start off with just a really brief introduction to the Saskatchewan Waste Reduction Council, and then we'll move on to our program. So the Saskatchewan Waste Reduction Council has been around since 1991. We're a nonprofit organization and we promote waste reduction and the circular economy to all sectors of the province. So we host conferences and other events that are mainly for those in the waste and recycling composting industry. Our next conference is going to be at the end of May in Saskatoon. We also maintain a database that's lets people search where they can find options for reducing, reusing, or for reusing, repairing, and recycling nearly everything in the province. It's called the Waste Reduction Hub. And with your indulgence, I'm going to try to give you a brief demonstration of how that works because I think it's a great tool for everyone, and you are most welcome to share it with your colleagues, friends, whoever, constituents. Um, and so I'm going to show you what it looks like. Mm, so can everybody see our website? So you can get to it just by typing swrc.ca. It shows up as a longer one, but swrc.ca works. And the Waste Reduction Hub is right here in the front. So if you choose a community, say Weyburn, it'll pop up with Weyburn. And then what you want to look at to recycle, let's say laptop computers, so we can get people to stop throwing those away because they cause fires in landfills, as everybody knows. So when you go through, it shows you what you've chosen, where you can recycle it. These are two options in Weyburn, where you can give it away to if it's still working and you don't need it anymore, and where you can get it repaired. So for each of these that there are in there, you can then click on them and it shows you where it is. It tells you all about that particular location that will accept laptop computers. It tells you when it's open, and it also says what else they recycle in the same place so that um, you can be up to date on that. So we have that for every community in the province, and we hope that um, people will make use of this tool and be able to keep materials out of landfill and in use for longer. So thank you for letting me indulge on showing you that. Um, and now we will get to our program. So our first speaker is Bobbie Duns. Bobbie has worked for the Saskatchewan Waste Reduction Council for more than 6 years. They've worn several hats, including planning events, updating the online recycling database, which is our waste reduction hub, coordinating finances, helping with public education, and lovingly referring to themselves as a garbage person. Last year, they coordinated 7 repair cafes in different cities across the province. Bobbie lives in Saskatoon with their 2 dogs and is always looking for new crafty hobbies to enjoy. So Bobbie's going to start us off with the basics of repair cafes and go through what we as a council have learned about setting up these events. So I'll turn it over to you, Bobbie.
Perfect. Thank you, Joanne. Can just to double check, you can see my presentation right now. Perfect. Thank you. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Joanne. So as Joanne mentioned, I have worn a lot of hats here at SWRC, but repair cafes are one of my favorite things that I do right now. And I could talk about them all day. I could talk about repair all day, but especially like these events specifically, they have my whole heart. So I I'm really excited to present this today, to talk about this, and then to have our panel later. And I'm really hopeful that this webinar will kick off more repair cafes around the province. And I think there were a couple of people from outside the province, so maybe even farther. So first of all, what is a repair cafe? It is fundamentally a free community event where community members can bring in broken household items and volunteers repair those items for free. It can be a pop-up one-day event or regular recurring events. And repair cafes were kind of started by an organization called Repair Cafe International, based out of the Netherlands. The movement has spread across the world. There are repair cafes all over Europe, North America, very much international. Yeah, the Repair Cafe International is a great organization and has a lot of great resources. SWRC and repair cafes specifically, we work to act as a hub for repair cafes here in Saskatchewan. Our focus is very provincial. Our goal is to foster a culture of repair and promote all of the repair cafes in Saskatchewan. We started hosting repair cafes in 2019. It's kind of when we kicked off. And we work to partner with local organizations to plan events from a distance. So I personally live in Saskatoon and I'm based out of Saskatoon, but I coordinate events in Estevan, Weyburn, North Battleford, Lloydminster, Humboldt. There's a whole list on our website, but we find local partners, organizations that are in those cities that can help us coordinate them, and then we support them there. Oops. And our goal is for those communities to take over and run those events independently. So, several years ago, we were coordinating and organizing the event here in Saskatoon, and the organization that was hosting them, Saskatoon Makerspace, has now secured funding and is running those events completely on their own without any of our support, which we love because that allows us to support more smaller events. Regina, similarly, we have later today, you'll hear from Rob from the Regina Repair Cafe. And to begin with, we were coordinating the Regina events. And now they're independent and running on their own. And so that's kind of our role here, is that we want to support the movement, keep them happening, but have them run by organizations that are local in those communities rather than doing everything from Saskatoon. We've also put together a repair cafe guidebook. It kind of runs you through everything that you need to know to host a repair cafe. It is very Saskatchewan specific. Repair Cafe International, that organization I mentioned earlier, they have something similar, but of course they are based in the Netherlands and it is a lot more, international and a little more vague. So our guidebook is like Saskatchewan focused, and you can request a copy of that for free if you email me. I can send it out to you. There's absolutely no charge. We require you to request it so that we can keep a list of who we've sent it out to, and we can follow up and see if we can support you, because again, our goal is to support these events. So why should you host a repair cafe? Connection and community building. It's one of the side effects of Repair Cafe. Every event that I've gone to, especially the smaller the community, the more that you see people who don't have very much in common, but they all care about repair and waste and sustainability. And they're all in this room together and they get to meet other people in their community that care about the same things. And, they might learn some skills or some new tips and tricks. And, there's a lot of ways to build connection and community, but repair cafes do include that. It also helps foster a culture of repair. Keep people thinking about repairing something before throwing it away. And I guess this just expands on the fostering a culture of repair. Everybody that attends, the volunteers, the attendees, the friends of people that went to the event, they all are more likely to think about repairing something before replacing it and throwing it away next time. And of course, it does reduce waste, every item or most items that are repaired, if they weren't repaired at that repair cafe, they'd most likely end up in the landfill. And so we're keeping things from the landfill, we're keeping things in use and reducing that waste. And then of course, that's skill sharing. There are so many repair skills that, as a society, we're slowly losing to time. And there aren't always easy ways to learn these repair skills. And one of the things that I love about a repair cafe is having, two volunteers in the small appliances table and watching them, not necessarily having a more experienced one and a less experienced one, but watching them share skills and learn from each other. Even if you're a professional, there's still things that you can learn, and yeah, that skill sharing. And then we always encourage attendees to stay with their item and learn, if they can learn from the volunteer repairing it. Try to find out how to repair that item next time, or repair a similar item themselves, and yeah, keep those repair skills in use, in circulation. So what do you need to host a repair cafe? I'm going to break down all of these points a little bit further, but fundamentally, a venue. You need somewhere to host it. You need volunteers. You need to get the word out. You need some repair materials and tools. You don't need this, but it is called a repair cafe, and so if you can have coffee and tea in a little cafe area, it's a nice touch. And of course, a budget. The venue. Venues can vary a lot. There's no, set rules on what you need from a venue. I look for a large open room that can fit anywhere from 3 to 10 tables. At a 3-table room, you're looking at a pretty small repair cafe, but even a small repair cafe is more items repaired than without that. You need electrical outlets and extension cords. And the venue needs to be accessible. Which there's a few different factors here. Easy to get to. So one of my challenges when I'm coordinating an event in a city that I don't live in is I don't know how easy it is to get to a venue. If you live in Humboldt and you're familiar with Humboldt, then you have an idea of like where these venues are, and maybe they're in a weird spot and they're hard to get to, and everybody knows that, but I personally don't. But yeah, so when somebody in the community is planning an event, they can pick a venue that is easy to get to. Free parking is a huge bonus. We work really hard to keep these events free and accessible cost-wise. And so paying for parking does reduce that accessibility. And ground level or ramps. And not just for accessibility to people with mobility issues, but also people are bringing in bicycles or microwaves or dining room chairs, and going up a flight of stairs or even in an elevator with a bicycle is just not ideal. And so if possible, keeping that venue at ground level or in a, with ramps is always good. Volunteers. Obviously, these events couldn't happen without a whole host of volunteers. You need repair volunteers. So when we're planning an event, we start by putting out a call for repair volunteers. If it's in a city that we've done an event in before, then we reach out to everybody that has volunteered in the past and ask them if they want to come back. If it's a brand new city, then we're doing a lot of advertising and just trying to get that word out and finding people that are handy and have repair skills. And once we have some repair volunteers commit to being at the event and they let us know, we always ask them, what do you want to fix? After that, I then advertise those repair stations to the public. So if we say we can bring in your small appliances, we can fix your small appliances, that is because somebody has said, I can work on small appliances. So when you're looking for repair volunteers, it can be very broad, very, very wide range. or it can be very, you can run an event with just a couple of sewing volunteers and no other stations and just only fix clothing and textiles. Um, so as far as repair volunteers goes, it can really vary. And I have another slide a little bit farther about some of those repair skills. But um, you also need hosts and registration table volunteers. When people come in, you need somebody to greet them, to explain how the event works, to get their information, to get, walk them through the rules and potentially have them sign a waiver, those kinds of things. And so when we're advertising for volunteers, we typically will include, like repair skills aren't needed. If you are keen and you want to help out, we need you too. Like we need people who don't know how to fix stuff to be there to keep this event running. You also need a volunteer coordinator, somebody to connect with all the volunteers and make a schedule and, coordinate the rest of the volunteers. This can be a volunteer position itself. This can be somebody who's willing to give their time for free. It can also be a paid coordinator, depending on your budget, which we'll talk about budget in a little bit. Some of the possible repair stations include this very long list that is popping up. So yeah, when I say that, what we accept for repair volunteers really can vary. Like it really, really can vary. These are some of the repair stations that we've seen. Yeah, some of my favorites. Knife sharpening is always a interesting and fascinating one. It's kind of in that area of is this really repair, but also it is keeping perfectly good items in use and functional, and a dull knife is more likely to break. So it maybe it's a pre-repair station, but people who they say they're not very handy, sometimes they're like, oh well, I can sharpen knives. We've also seen stuffy and toy repair, shoe maintenance and shoe repairs, small engines, depending on the space, welding and wood shop. That is very, very space specific, but there are events that are held in venues that have a wood shop, and then they can do full wood shop style repairs. So these are just some of the suggestions, some of the ideas of repair stations you can have. You also need to get the word out, which really it can look like a bunch of different things. When you're in the community that the event is in, word of mouth, tell your friends, tell people tell them to tell their friends. Posters, here on the image on the side, there are a couple of posters that we've made, and anytime we're running an event, we have posters put up around the city. We also run social media ads, and try to do like community news. I'll reach out to Discover Weyburn and tell them about the event and, do a little interview, and they write a couple of little news articles. It's not like paid advertising, but it gets the word out. And then there's also like radio and TV advertising, running ads and doing advertising like that. You also need repair materials and tools. And again, much like repair volunteers, this can really vary. Here at SWRC, we ask all the volunteers to bring whatever tools they can. We try to supply any consumable materials, but of course, we can't supply a whole list of, heavy and expensive material or tools to a wide variety of communities. So when people volunteer, we say, bring whatever tools you can, whatever you're willing to bring with you. And of course, yeah, we try to supply consumable materials. If attendees, if somebody registers and they say, I need a zipper and a jacket replaced, I'll reach out and say, can you bring a zipper with you? And other events, some of the events that we'll hear from today have a tool chest that stays at the venue, and they're able to provide tools to the volunteers. So this is something that can really vary depending on budget and space. And of course, you can collect donations to purchase more. The first event, you might not have very much to supply to your volunteers. And when you've been running it for several years, you've maybe collected enough donations that you can supply some of these tools and materials. The examples of consumable materials that we supply, for the most part, are here. again, this can really vary. I always try to supply a range of glue and tape and WD-40, and of course, a plastic drop sheet. If we're going to have glue and WD-40, we need to keep whatever venue we're in clean. Um, the other popular things include replacement electrical plugs, canned air, denim patches, zip ties, heat shrink tubing, which is apparently used for like electrical repairs. A little out of my skill set, but I've been told. And coffee and tea. This isn't something that we do at every single event. If we don't have the good space for it, if we don't have the budget for it, if things aren't lining up, we don't always have coffee and tea for the attendees. But it is called a repair cafe, and it is about community building. So it's lovely to have a little coffee station if you can. We do provide lunch for our volunteers. Some events will collect donations and then run out and buy a box of donuts or something for their volunteers. And you can ask for in-kind sponsorships. If you want to supply coffee and tea, you can reach out to your local grocery store and ask them to donate some creamer and sugar and tea and coffee beans. Budget, the big question. It can really vary. You can run an event for anywhere from $100 to $500 plus. That upper range of 500 doesn't include the coordinator time. So of course it can range well over that if you're including time to plan the event. Our typical budget for an event looks like this. We usually spend about $100 on lunch and snacks for the volunteers, anywhere from $40 to $100 for repair materials, in and around that $100 range for advertising, printing posters, running social media ads, and then it varies a little, but we include an insurance cost for the venue. And if you've got a limited budget, partner with some community organizations. Often renting a venue can be one of the bigger costs, but we at SWRC, we partner with several different public libraries who are able to give us that venue space for free. And so we're not paying that rental cost, and that really drops the budget. And find in-kind sponsorships. You can reach out to a local hardware store and ask if they're willing to give you a roll of duct tape and Gorilla Glue at no charge because you have this free community event that's volunteer staffed. This is a really great community initiative. And so small local stores often will sponsor you. And you can also ask for discounts for lunch. I'll order pizza and I'll call the pizza place a few days ahead of time and talk to the manager. And a lot of them will give us a discount because we are a small nonprofit. Other things to keep in mind, you need station signs so people know where they're going. You need registration forms. This can be digital or paper, but you need to collect information from the attendees when they come in. Feedback forms, finding out how the event went, how the attendees and the volunteers thought of it, if they have any feedback or suggestions. Aprons and name tags for volunteers are a great touch. A donation jar. This doesn't feel that important, but it honestly is. People will want to give you donations, and when we haven't planned for it, we end up having one of those like Danish cookie tins, and then no one's sure if it's a sewing kit or a donation jar, and that's just a whole problem. And liability insurance. And waivers. So insurance and waivers, there are different ways to do this depending on the venue you're in and the organization that's running it. We have a list of rules that everyone coming in with an item agrees to. Other events have a full waiver. It can vary. Frequency of events. The key here is repeat and regular events. The first time we host an event in a community is always going to be our smallest and most difficult event. More often you can host them, the communities that are running events once a month, those are the easiest to find volunteers, and people, like, they know when to expect it and they know when to come in, and they're more likely, if their lamp breaks, they're not like, well, I don't know when the next repair cafe is. They're like, well, it'll be within a month. I can take it there. And of course, word of mouth is everything. The regular and repeat events, they'll tell their friends will know to look for it. And yeah, I guess I touched on regular timing work is fast. So that is my presentation. Thank you, everyone. I do want to mention that guidebook. If anyone is interested in getting our guidebook, you can email me either at Bobbie at SWRC.ca, like you see on the screen now, or the info at SWRC.ca email address, which I shared earlier.
Thank you, Bobbie. I should just mention that if you do have questions for Bobbie, could you put them in the chat and we will get to them when we are through with all of the presentations. Appreciate that. I'd like to introduce Keegan Storey now. Keegan is a board member with the Swift Current Repair Café. He also in his day job is with the city of Swift Current, where he's been for 8 years, managing the solid waste utility for the past 6.5 years. Over the last 2 years, he's taken on management of the city's water and wastewater treatment facilities and transit system. His work spans municipal solid waste and non-hazardous industrial landfills, waste collection, recycling, composting, and hazardous waste collection. So you can tell that, he has many, many hats and he's stretched very thin, as are many people in smaller cities, right? Before this, Keegan worked as a mechanic, farmhand in natural gas well operations and in environmental consulting. He holds a degree in geological engineering. In his free time, he's busy chasing his 5 and 4-year-olds around, fixing up things in his garage that probably should have been scrapped, go Keegan, and spending as much time outdoors as he can on anything motorized. There we go. So Keegan, I'm going to share your presentation for you.
Thanks, Joanne.
Can everybody see that? That's okay.
Okay, there we are. So,
all right.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction, Joanne, and thanks for putting this on today, all of the SWRC. And yeah, so with the Swift Current Repair Cafe, yeah, we got our start in 2019 with a push and helping hand from the SWRC. We aligned our first repair cafe with the waste reduction week, and yeah, since that time we've got a consistent group of volunteers, and we've put together our own board and take care of I guess the entire events. And so yeah, as Joanne mentioned, I'm with the city, so take that as a bit of a disclaimer, because one of the big helping hands of getting these events going is the venue. So you don't need a lot of budget to get these things up and running and off the ground, but venues aren't cheap. And so depending on what they are, if you can work with an organization like your local community, town, city, what may be, a lot of times there are venues available. And from my side of things, I mean, my role is directly in solid waste and reduction, and so something like this is just a direct correspondence, or directly correlates, and so it's hard not to support an event like this. And so since 2019, we've been running 2 events a year. We find a spring and a fall event has worked well. We primarily targeted that towards our volunteers, and it's kind of a nice amount to ensure that we need our volunteers to come back, right? And by doing it a couple of times a year, it keeps it something. It's something that's fresh and fun, and a lot of, like myself and a lot of the other repairers, we've got no shortage of things to fix on our own. So having a day here and there to get together with other people and fix other people's stuff is enjoyable, but doing it day in and day out is not quite the same case. Likewise, we've had people at events that have tried to hire some of the volunteers and different things like that, and some of the volunteers will go for it, but most of them will decline, because it's something that they're doing it for a community type thing a couple times a year. Like I said, it's just a way to kind of get together. And so you can see on the screen there, we do have a bit of a larger venue. We're averaging between 30 and 40 volunteers per event, and typically 100 plus attendees per event. These last couple of years, we've added knife sharpening, which has inflated our numbers a little bit. So we can see we got the 272 there last year, but we've been consistently over 100 repairs per event. A few of the things that we feel have helped our events succeed is just I guess the companionship side of things. It's as much about the group of volunteers just getting together and catching up and seeing each other again, learning from each other. We try and put on a good meal and keep things light and entertaining. As far as finding volunteers, word of mouth has been our biggest biggest success. There's a lot of the experts wouldn't consider themselves experts. I mean, we do have a few people that, you know, the types of repairs they are doing, it's part of their business, part of their day job, what have you. But most of them would not consider themselves experts. Myself, I started just because of being part of the initial launch and with the city. I was there just trying to help provide support to the experts, get materials, different things like that, because I didn't consider myself an expert. I still don't, mind you. But it didn't take long into that event before I got pulled into fixing some small appliances, and it's been great, because as a guy who tinkers pretty regularly, it's good to have made some of these connections and have these people that I can sit around and I can call up, outside of the event and, hey, what do you do? What do you do for this? And it's been really handy. We've got what we call, our host kind of acts as a bit of a triage person, we call it. So when electronics come in, for example, there's a pretty varying degree of complexity on electronics or even small appliances, right? And so some of the newer volunteers or the less confident, less experienced volunteers, we might hand the lamp to them, right? Whereas the sound system, it goes down the line, if you will. Now, on that, at the same time, it's one of those things that when there's a group of you, if there's something that you aren't able to fix, you can just kind of send it down the line. But ultimately, one of the things that I've really enjoyed is that most of the items that are coming in, they're on the verge of getting thrown out. So when you say, I think it might be this, I think it might be this, I'm going to have to rip into it, I might make it worse. Most of the time, it's broken in the first place, and most of the time, everyone is very like the residents coming in are very, they're just happy that you're willing to take a look at it and have the attitude that, well, this is my last ditch effort to save this thing. It's on the verge of being thrown out. If you break it trying to fix it or make it worse, it's really no worse, right? So it was one of the things I was concerned about right off the bat, was breaking someone else's stuff. I break enough of my own stuff. I don't want to be breaking other people's stuff. But it hasn't been that. It's been very low pressure and very enjoyable, all in all. So I think, yeah, and I guess the one picture in the bottom in the center there, we've got a bunch of organizer cabinet trays, and so those were actually something we got donated last year. There's a gentleman in the community that was moving out of his home into a community living, and had just dozens and dozens of these organized trays full of miscellaneous small parts, and donated it to our event. And it's the volunteers have been very excited about that. So yeah, was there anything else that I might miss that touching on right now, Joanne?
I don't think so. I think if there's questions for you, we'll get to them in the second part of the webinar. So no, that was really great. Yes, actually, there is one thing. You should mention the video.
Oh, yes. So if we have a website, I think it's screpaircafe.org. Can Sorry, Joanne or Bobbie, would you be able to verify that and maybe put in the group chat? But a few years ago, we had a local film production crew show up and do a small documentary on our repair cafe, and they did a really great job of it. And it's available on our website, and I think it's got some of the volunteers' comments and feedback. It's got some feedback from some of the attendees. And so, yeah, for those interested in the event and seeing some of that side of things, I think it would be beneficial to take a look at. Thank you.
Thanks, Keegan. Appreciate that. All right. Our next speaker is Les Dickson with the Prince Albert Repair Cafe. Les has worked in construction, education, and web design. That's a nice broad spectrum. Now retired, he volunteers with several organizations, including the Canadian Vintage Radio Society and the Prince Albert Repair Cafe. And Prince Albert was the first repair cafe, I think, that we know of to start. It started on its own, and it's been going really well. So we're excited to hear from Les.
Thanks, Joanne. I'll share my screen in a minute, but I first heard about the Repair Cafe in 2018 when I was shopping at the grocery store, and someone that I knew was going to be organizing it and asked if I would come on as a volunteer. And we ran for 2 years up until COVID out of a city facility. And then because of COVID, we had to shut down. And the organizer then had moved out of town. So I took on the coordinator responsibility in 2023. And we started going then. One thing I'll mention about the International Repair Cafe is that they're working to support legislation called Right to Repair, which is a really important thing. Any of you that have worked as volunteers or worked on repairing items know that some of these can be really difficult to get into, really unique fasteners and sealed units without good manuals or instructions. So that's something that they're doing internationally, and I think it's a great idea. I'm just going to get my presentation brought up here. Is it coming up yet? You can see it?
Yep, it looks great.
Okay. Yeah, so we are now located at the Prince Albert Science Center, which is located in the Gateway Mall in right downtown. Like a lot of city center areas, the Gateway Mall has a lot of vacancies right now, so they've let the Science Center use a farmer store area there. The Science Center doesn't operate continually. They only put on special events. And so they were very gracious in allowing us to use their facility. We run regularly the first Saturday of each month. And we found that the regularity has really worked well. People just know to expect the first Saturday of each month. Sometimes it's a bit of a conflict because there's a long weekend, but we decided to stick with that anyways. So the general layout, when people come in, we have a welcome and registration area. We don't book appointments. It's entirely a drop-in event. So people come in and they're greeted. We take the information about what they need repaired, and we ask them to sign a waiver form that's based on the waiver form provided by Repair Cafe International. Then we have several workstations, and I don't have a good picture, but we do provide coffee, tea, and some sort of a snack with each event. At each workstation, we have these items. Each volunteer gets an apron, a name tag, a magnetic tray for holding parts, because it's interesting to chase little ball bearings and screws across the floor. And then a power bar, so that for safety you can quickly shut off any item that's causing problems, and then a magnifying lamp. And those work well. We have a tool cabinet. Actually, that cabinet was built for us by the Provincial Correctional Center. We had it full of tools when COVID hit. During COVID, someone broke into the storage facility and stole all of our tools, and a couple of sewing machines included in that. So we've been rebuilding that, but we have a fairly good selection of tools so that volunteers can just show up, and we have pretty much everything that's needed. It's a growing list, and from our donations, we continue to add to that. We've outgrown the cabinet, and now you see some storage bins on top. We're able to store that at the Science Center. A number of the items are listed there. I'm not sure that it's including all of them, but those are a lot of the very common items that we keep on hand. The way that we promote the Repair Cafe really varies, but word of mouth has been one of the best things. Once somebody has come to the event and had success, they like to tell their friends about it. We use a Facebook account, which has been one of our main ways of getting getting the information out to people. At each event, we have a large scannable QR code where people can sign up for an email reminder. And then we use a MailChimp account to send out reminders for people just before each event. The city has a large digital bulletin board right downtown, and we're able to put a display on each month. So what you see there is the March one that shows up every month with just a different date in there. We also use the local Prince Albert Daily Herald. We put in paid advertisements occasionally. Also, they're very good. If we give them a phone call, they'll come and do an interview and post an article prior to an event, and that helps. And then we have created just recently our own webpage, repaircafeprincealbert.org. We've had some partnerships that have been very successful. The most important one is with the Prince Albert Science Center. It's just been an ideal location, lots of parking, accessibility, a big well-lit space. Affinity Credit Union gave us money to purchase aprons for all of our volunteers. The Lakeland Co-op gave us a $500 gift card so that we could replenish our tools after that break-in and robbery. The city of Prince Albert had initially given us a space. They also gave us a small grant to get started. And they have on the city webpage, there's a calendar of events, so we get promoted in there as well. We had a one-time partnership with Big Brothers Big Sisters and the city police. We were able to go to the police compound and select bicycles that looked like they could be repaired. And then Big Brothers and Big Sisters selected children to receive the bikes. And we had extra volunteers in that day to fix the bikes so that they could be given to the children. And we've found that demonstrations are a great way to get people into the event. We had a drywall repair session where somebody from the co-op brought in this small wooden wall, actually put on sheets of gyprock, showed how to tape it, and then asked one of the guests to take a hammer and smash a hole in the drywall, and then showed how to fix it. One thing that I've heard mentioned quite a bit today is knife sharpening, and we just had that as well. We had to promote it as don't bring your knives. We're just going to demonstrate how to do it. Another event that we run at least twice a year is bike maintenance. And again, we encourage people not to bring in their bicycles, but just to watch. This is a retired bike mechanic who goes through the entire system and shows people what should be done for regular maintenance, and then answers specific questions that people have about keeping their bike in shape. We've done a workshop on learning how to solder and on how to use a multimeter. And that's the end of my show. So thank you.
Thanks, Les. That's great. I really like how you've sort of expanded things a little bit beyond just the basic repair cafe so that we all have more skills in the repairing area. I'm sure you had a lot of people volunteering to be the person who put the hammer through the wall, right? But thank you very much. Okay. Our next speaker is Rob DeGlau. Rob is with the EnviroCollective network in Regina. Rob is a lifelong community advocate and former city councilor in Regina who champions sustainability and social reform. With a background in small business and community development, Rob now chairs the EnviroCollective network and leads the Regina Climate Hub, uniting citizens, businesses, and government to advance environmental sustainability, social enterprise, and climate action. And Rob, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Joanne. Okay, so can I share my screen then?
Absolutely.
What do I do?
There's a share button.
Oh, I see it now. There we go.
The green one? Yeah. Not a problem.
Okay, everybody can see that then, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, we're a climate hub located in Regina, and our whole purpose was to bring all the small environmental climate action groups together, and we would host a yearly sustainability expo. And so one of the things that happened was we got people, but we said, gee, we were hoping to get more. So one of the things we decided down the road was, why don't we add a repair cafe? So every year we would host the Sustainability Expo, and what coincidentally happened is the Repair Cafe took over. More and more people came for the Repair Cafe than they did for the Expo. So we said, listen, why don't we park the Expo idea and just focus on repair cafes? So we decided, well, let's put all our energy into that. And of course, went around trying to find venues and partner with as many people as we could. But then things just started snowballing. What we thought we were going to do 3 to 5 in a year when we first decided, we got a sponsor, Affinity came along, and all of a sudden now we're doing 8 a year. So we then put up posters and tell everybody that we can fix things for free. And what we try to do is highlight the location in our poster or social media so people know what's going. Our stuff is we book online. And so what we try to find is venues that, of course, are large enough that have enough plugins, cords, and whatever. But one of the things along the way, we had small businesses decide, hey, I'd like to volunteer and do something. And so here's a fellow that runs an actual sewing repair company, and he comes out maybe once a year or twice, and he's booked solid. We found this happening a few times. So one of the things we did right off the bat was we said, listen, thank you so much for participating, but please give out your brochures. Use this opportunity to grow your business, especially reuse and recycle. So that became a big thing for some of these small organizations. One of the things we try to do is when we have an event is we try to put our sewers together, because there's always something that comes along that is different. And so people start networking and talking, and it becomes its own little group. What's interesting here is we make sure that everything is facing to the inside. So behind you, you see where the sewers, that's where all the cords are, their extra supplies, all that kind of stuff. So people aren't tripping over it. They do ironing, they do pressing and stuff like that. We're getting a lot of new Canadians coming forward who want to do work. And back home, they were doing all kinds of incredible things. So one of the things we're finding out is a lot of them don't have the tools. So now through our donations, we're looking for extra equipment, extra tools, sewing machines, anything that we can get over. And again, too, we put all the sewers together. So if there's a problem or something's different, they can come together and start solving problems. Talking about solving problems, what's interesting is you'll find that people get so carried away watching the repair that they sometimes say, well, can I be involved? And we're finding more and more that this is happening. Here's a lady fixing her own bread maker under the supervision of Ralph, one of our longtime volunteers. And it becomes this exciting thing because at the end of the day, they repaired their own piece of equipment. And what's happening is they're losing their fear of attempting things because once they've tried it once, it becomes a little bit interesting. What we do is we set up out, if we're outside, we do bike repairs. And interesting, this time around, one of our partners was Nature Regina, who then set up outside also and gave away seedlings. So that was really interesting. So one of the things we're trying to do is there's an organization called Bike Regina. And when we get back to the George Bothwell Library where we're at, we're hoping that they can partner and take on the bicycle repair and have 4 or 5 bicycle tune-up techs. This was our event at the George Bothwell Library, and you can see at the bottom, that's our tape and glue station. And in the middle is where we put our coffee table because we want the newcomers to be dead center of the action so they can sit there, have their coffee, and be in the middle of the hubbub. And it becomes, I call it antique roadshow on steroids. Everybody's gawking at everybody else's stuff and looking at what's happening, getting repaired and so forth. So it becomes this big social event. One of the new things that was added is jewelry repair. And these 2 ladies come every time. They do half a day and they're booked solid. We kind of had an idea of what each station needs for time limits. And we do an online booking system for the simple reason we need to know who's coming, what are they bringing, what's broken. And a week before the actual event, we send this list out to all our volunteers so they know what kind of tools to bring, what kind of equipment, supplies, the whole thing, so they know what to do. One of the things that we do is, of course, is a registration table. That's the key. That's your greeter. That's your most congenial people in the entire event. Some of your repair people could be crusty, but you want your front desk people, and the terminology we use is the same as what they do in Calgary. We call it front of house, same as in the restaurant industry. And front of house makes sure that they're registered. If they've had an appointment, we check it off. If they're a walk-in, we're getting all the details. They sign a form that says, hey, listen, we understand this is a volunteer. And you know what, we're going to try our best, and we can't guarantee that it's going to walk out fixed. Our repair rate is about 75%. Some of them aren't. Well, there's this portion that we just can't because we can't get parts or pieces. And sometimes they break taking it apart. And that's one of the problems. So when we're talking about right to repair, not only it's happening in Europe, but there's legislation now here, even in Saskatchewan, on right to repair. And we're encouraging people to support and talk to your local government to make sure this is coming. And what does that really mean is some brands and products, if there's no repair, then it becomes a waste problem. So the idea is standardization in some of the products so that people can actually repair. One of the new things that's come to our way is guitar repair. So, and tune-up. And there's a couple of guys that do that. We don't have a big uptake on that, but we need to start going to do some more guerrilla marketing. So we were sending out flyers to the music stores. But what we're going to start doing is maybe sending out flyers to all the churches, because almost every church has a band and volunteers, and it's maybe a way for them to get new people. Of course, the registration table is there. And of course, we take our donations, but we also brought along now tap, because we have a tap machine. So people want to pay by credit card and whatever. And we found that more and more people were asking if they can use their card. So we said, well, let's embrace it. And it'd be surprising. I mean, I think the most we've gotten at a repair cafe was close to 200,000 or $200. The lady there is our sewer, our knitter. She sits at the desk also and does registration, but she does knitting repairs. I haven't seen a sitter that needs to sit in quiet. The gals just love chatting and doing their knitting. One of the things we're finding is we've got a couple of new guys, and they're doing game controller repairs. Plus, they'll do a bunch of other things. And this is a lady that just got a portable a steam machine fixed. But was interesting, the people beside her that are no longer in the picture, one of them had a problem, and before you know it, the client was helping the repair person talk them through how something should be repaired. And so this became this little clique of people working together in repairing. Of course, we're trying our best to get as much coverage as possible. And so again, here you see our sewers are all together. One of the things that we find is the sewers usually get behind. So if we have 3 sewers, we only book spots for 2, and we use the third sewer as fallback or support. And then we stop appointments at 3:30, or 3 o'clock is the last time you can book, because they need time to finish up and whatever, because some of the stuff they end up getting is quite large and a lot of work to do. One of the things we're doing is, of course, we always need volunteers. And we found that if we put some good humor to it and stick them out, we're getting a lot of responses. One of the things we come to realize is, where are all these people hanging out? And of course, they're at the co-op, they're at Princess Auto, they're at any supply company that sells parts, pieces, and whatever. So that's how we've been tapping into finding volunteers. As far as, and again, with the sewing volunteers, that's one of the biggest things to do. So we asked for our fairy godmothers wanted. When we did just a basic post, we needed sewers, nothing happened. But the minute we went this way with a little bit of humor, it just escalated. So that was so much fun. We give all our volunteers a whack of business cards. Doesn't have anybody's name, but it just says, hey, we can fix it for free. And wherever they go, I mean, if you're tipping at a restaurant and you're throwing $5 down, that we encourage them to throw one of these cards down too. So again, we are getting about 50 new participants every event, and we're keeping track of their name, address, phone number through the registration. And so they get an automatic invite to the next event. One of the things we also do is now we've built a repair cafe host guideline. So now that the word's getting around, this is our second year at doing this full time every month, that we're getting more responses or more requests than we have availability for volunteers. So we've been a little bit more selective on the venue. One of the things we're looking at the venue is, who are your clientele? Do you have access to your own customers? Can we use your database to expand our brand and let people know? I mean, it's great to set up in just a hall, but if we can tap into a library who has their own communications, work with the city who has an internal communications, or a local church basement has their congregation, then we expand our reach big time. So other than that, we do a lot of, one of the things that's happening was more and more people are coming and want to be mentored. And so they want to learn about repairs. And so what we're looking at is when we go to our repair group, we're saying, hey, would you take a mentor? Would you be able to mentor? And that's what's happening. We're finding more and more people are teaching. So now everything's starting to grow. So every table needs, workstation needs 2 chairs in the back because we have a tech and then we have an apprentice. So, yeah, it's just been great. And yeah, I look forward to questions. Thanks so much, Joanne.
Thanks, Rob. This is amazing. All the different ways that repair is moving. And I'm really thrilled with how many people that you're getting for that are just sort of coming out of the woodwork and how you're expanding it. This is tremendous. I have some questions, and people are free to write their questions in the chat. So let us, if you have any questions. One specific little question for Keegan. Where do you keep all those donated supplies? Like,
Yeah, so I want to say 2 or 3 years ago now, we actually bought a small enclosed trailer just because we were finding that we were relying on each other to store things, and we were getting to be more and more. And through some donations and stuff like that, we had picked up a fixer-upper enclosed trailer, if you can believe that. It was in pretty rough shape, and we had a bit of an evening get together and with some pizza and some pops and repaired this trailer. And so yeah, now we've got an enclosed trailer that we keep everything in.
cool. Okay. So questions for each of you. What do you wish you had known before hosting your first event?
So if I'm still up, I'll go first here. But one of the things is don't be afraid to ask for help. And with that, if you can give a specific request, there's a lot of people willing. Like once you find your group, or as you're trying to find your group, yeah, if you can ask for help. People don't know that you need help until you ask. And if you can specify that request that, hey, can you help locate a venue, or give something with a little more detail on the direction, people are a lot more likely to kind of grab that and run.
Thanks. Let's go to Rob. What do you wish you had known before hosting your first event?
How crazy it was going to go, right? So it's just, I'm so blown away by it all that we actually suspended our sustainability expo and just embraced Repair Cafe. And now, coincidentally, we're doing one of the larger repair cafes at one of the libraries. And now there's groups that have come forward saying, hey, listen, can we do a trade show at the same time? So we're back to it. We're calling it a climate action fair. And we have everything from Saskatchewan Electric Vehicle Association showing up and a whole bunch of partners. City's going to have a booth and that type of thing. And so it's snowballing as we bring more people together. And then the amount of groups saying, hey, I'd like to have you guys at our place. So that's why we designed the host guidelines, because some spaces are just not adequate. I mean, when you're bringing 25 volunteers, and then you have that center table where everybody's waiting, then that's the big thing. I mean, every event we do a survey back to the participants and to our volunteers. We ask them, what could we have done different? And that's where we're getting a lot of the good responses.
Thanks. Les, what do you wish you had known before hosting your first event?
Well, in some ways, I learned a lot because somebody else had started the Repair Cafe here. And so there was sort of a system in place. But when I started taking over, what I wish I had known was what Bobbie set up with Waste Reduction Council is coordinating other repair cafes. I've learned a lot from regular meetings with other repair cafes about different ways of doing things, what's worked, what hasn't, and that connection has been really valuable.
Thanks. Bobbie, what do you wish you had known before hosting your first event?
I feel like I stressed this in the presentation, but having like a partner organization, you sometimes just like one keen person in the community who can go around and talk to a bunch of organizations, sometimes a contact at the city or a library, but not just a venue to host it at, but like a partner, somebody that's excited and wanting to work with us and help. Because for me, like for the events that we host, when I'm not there, I can't drive around Melfort and hang up posters. I can't show up at the hardware store and request donations. And so, having someone in that or community that that is excited and keen and wanting to pull off an event is
Yeah. And I want to do a
absolutely.
shout out to Sask Waste Reduction. I mean, Bobbie, you held our hand. We panicked like crazy until we did our first and second one. And after a while, we go, I think we got this. And I think it's just no different than a parent trying to teach their kid to ride a bike. Eventually, you got to let go, and then away we went.
Yeah, and
Okay,
I love that you're on your own now, and I love that we were able to help get you there.
we have some questions that are specific for the panelists. Rob, can you share your host guidelines? And which software do you use for booking appointments? Do people book themselves or do you book it for them?
I can share the host guidelines. What I can do, Bobbie, is I'll send it to you, and then everybody can funnel their way. We also have a volunteer guideline set up too, so they understand what they have to do, set up, what needs to happen. And the other question was
Booking
booking
appointments,
appointments.
software.
We used Bobbie set us with up with Setmore. We struggled a bit with the free version and decided to buy a pro. And Setmore had incredible onboarding professionals, and we were able to take over a one seat um, uh, membership, and we use the same methodology as a booking seat in a classroom. So we have multiple topics and then people book. So what happens is people book online, they then tell us what they want, and from there we can print out everything that we need to for all the volunteers. So from a registration form, when people walk in, we can check them off that so and so made it at this time, and it works quite nice.
The Bobbie, do you want to speak to Setmore in the repair guide that we have?
Yeah, I completely forgot to mention in our in my presentation, but as part of our Repair Cafe guidebook, there is an appendix that talks about the Setmore software that Rob mentioned and kind of goes through setting it up and how to make it work for a repair cafe. Although I'll note that what Rob is saying is that our guide wasn't working for their system and they had to come up with or work with Setmore to come up with a new one. But yeah, it's a free software. I usually tell people it's set up. I think it's set up for like salons, when you go to book a hair appointment, you can pick who you want to book it with and what kind of appointment and your time slot. And so we just modify all of that and make it, small appliances and sewing instead of hairdresser. Um, but yeah, our guidebook, if you've requested or you're going to request our guidebook, it does walk through setting up Setmore.
Thank you.
I saw a question in the comments about not book, how chaotic is it to not book appointments? Our events in the smaller communities, we always say that walk-ins are welcome, but appointments will be prioritized. So we recommend booking ahead, but we always take walk-ins. I think this is really the only way to get it going in a smaller community because people just aren't always going to be able to plan ahead and book that appointment. And I often hear feedback like, we're just not a QR code community. Um, things like that. So yeah, we do both. When people book an appointment, I'm able to, like Rob said, go through that list of appointments and send it out to my volunteers so my volunteers know what to expect. And sometimes they say, oh, I'm going to bring this tool that I wouldn't have brought. Or, they say, can you ask this person to buy this part and bring it with them? So when if you're walking in for an appointment, you might not have a prepared volunteer to fix it, but that's on you.
With that, Bobbie, our events there's no booking at all. It's strictly a drop in. We've had people show up, we've identified a part and that they need to do the repair, and we don't expect that that our repair cafe is responsible for purchasing that part, or that our volunteers should be supplying that part, anything like that. I mean, we, like many of your other events, we do the basic consumables, but we've identified the part, people have gone out, sometimes they'll repair it themselves if we've gone far enough that they are comfortable with that, or we've had people show up at the next event with that part. And same thing, if there is specialized tools that we needed, same thing. We've had some people that have come back to the next event that, yeah, next time I'll bring such and such, and we go from there. So it's worked for us, but I can see that there being benefits both ways with the booking and non-booking.
Unless you said you don't take appointments, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. We just, it's worked out very well for us just with drop-ins. We do occasionally get a request beforehand through the Facebook account or our email.
Mm-hmm.
Can I bring in my printer? And so we can ask for more information. And much like Keegan, we also have people that bring in something, we identify a very specific part they need, they purchase it and bring it back next month, and then we fix it for them.
Okay, thank you. Keegan, as a municipality running an event, did you get grants or ask for community support in the form of donation, or did the city cover these costs? So maybe just speak to the relationship between the city of Swift Current and the Repair Cafe.
Yeah, so on that note, it's not a city run or operated event, and there was talk at the beginning, but I've really strived to stay away from that, just because there's a volunteer asking for other volunteers. It has a lot better chance of getting a volunteer. We all have differing views on government and everything else like that, which we don't need to get into today. But I feel it's a little more difficult for a city itself or a government entity to go out and ask for stuff like that, and really didn't really want to get into that side. So we have our volunteers, and the city supports that volunteer initiative. And so that's where, with me being on the city side and part of the solid waste, just because it is a waste reduction initiative, that's how I have an easy time selling it to my higher ups and to council and everything, that we're supporting this initiative to keep stuff out of the landfill.
So do you supply the venue?
So we supply the venue. We utilize we do support social media advertising. Typically, do a little bit of paid advertising just through our socials, which we'll spend
Sure.
$100 on an event for the Facebook paid advertising, and we've had really good success with that. And so that's how the city supports our repair cafe.
Okay, thank you. I hope that answers your question, Aaron. This similar question for all of you. What were your biggest struggles during the startup phase? Just run through each of you quickly. Start with Bobbie. Biggest struggles during the startup phase.
It's hard. I want to say like the startup phase, kind of the combo of like finding volunteers and getting that word out and attendees. Usually like the first 1 to 3 events in a community will have, 5 to 7 volunteers and less than 10 appointments. It's just, it's smaller. It's, and I've often heard, somebody has come and attended a repair cafe and gone, oh, this is way cooler than I thought it would be. I could absolutely volunteer next time. I thought about volunteering, but I wasn't sure what to expect. Or, the volunteers go, oh, I'm going to tell my friends. I have friends that could help. And so, yeah, just kind of that, like, getting that momentum going is the hardest part of the startup phase.
Rob, what were your biggest struggles during the startup phase?
Not knowing what supplies to have. Every
Okay,
time something came in, you go, "Oh, we should have had one of those, right?" And so, I
okay.
mean, our glue table is huge. So we've got, seven, eight, nine different tapes. We've got different kinds of acrylics, all different drying times,
Mm,
super glues, wood glues. I mean, the list goes on. And yeah, that was some of the stuff. But again, too, our people were pretty good with it.
hmm Les, what were your biggest struggles during the startup phase?
Just trying to get the word out about the Repair Cafe,
Okay.
what it is,
hmm
what it does, and you know, sort of get people familiar with the idea and finding ways to reach a wider group of people.
Fair. Keegan?
Yeah, very similar. Just getting that core group in place. Like for us, there's a ham radio club in town, and
Mm,
I think that's over half a dozen of our core groups. So I think if you look for some of those hobby groups, some of those coffee shop groups of tinkerers, and having that conversation about just to get past the stigma that you have to be an expert, right? We call each other experts, but at the end of the day, it's a very we're looking if you're even remotely a handyman or woman or a tinkerer, if you fix anything, you're qualified.
Yeah, we call them
fair.
MacGyvers.
Yeah,
That's how we
Nice.
advertise. They know it.
gotcha. Yeah, I like it.
Um,
Can I just
what,
add that
yeah.
the type of volunteer that works really well for us is sort of a generalist. People that
hmm
are tinkerers or hands-on kind of people. I have a trades background. I taught at SciAst, so I had a lot of connections with similar kinds of people.
That's very useful. Yeah. Do any of you provide options for disposal of items that cannot be repaired, like places to take them for recycling if a program exists? Let's go backwards. Keegan.
Yes, we'll provide guidance for certain things like Sarcan with their electronics recycling. We've got a guy that has come to some of the events and collected electronics that they haven't been able to recycle because he recovers the precious metals. So yeah, just some general guidance, and either that or send them back to the waste reduction hub.
Okay. Les, do you
Yeah,
provide?
we have a
Mhm.
bin where we collect items and then take them to Sarcan ourselves.
Okay. Rob, do you provide any options for recycling?
Exactly what Keegan and Les is. Sometimes they leave it behind, and if we can get rid of it locally, we will. Otherwise, yeah, it might be a Sarcan drop. But what we try to do is really encourage the people to take back, and then educate them where it can go to.
Bobbie, what kind of
Sorry.
provisions do you make? Sorry, go ahead, Keegan.
Oh, sorry. Just one thing else is some of
hmm
the items we've kept, and we've had a take apart table,
Ah,
and we're more for the kids. And so we'll just have some general basic tools there, and yeah, the stuff that's not repairable or that's been deemed not repairable, the kids can sit there and wrench on.
that's
It's
a
gone over fairly
fantastic
well.
option. Yeah. Bobbie?
So we don't technically. I will occasionally have people reach out saying, I have a lamp that isn't working, but like I don't need it anymore. Can I bring it, get it repaired, and then donate it? And I hate it, but I have to say no because I'm the person answering the question and I'm not going to be there. And so if I say, yeah, we'll take the lamp and donate it, that I'm dumping that on a volunteer and I'm now asking the volunteers. And however, a lot of the times volunteers will, after the event mention that, some of the things that couldn't be repaired, they drove over to Sarcan themselves on their way home. So I'm like, yes and no. Um, I have to say no, but it does occasionally happen.
Yeah, we have the
And
same thing happen. People think that they can bring something, you fix it, and then donate it to somebody. I'm going, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, like I love that. I'd love to keep it in the reuse system, but who is taking that lamp now, and where is it going, and the logistics there. And, it's not
Yeah.
impossible to figure out, but for me, I'm dumping that on somebody who's already giving us their time and energy.
So point the person who wants to donate it to the hub or to their local, and they can get it fixed and take it themselves.
That is
That might
that
be,
that
yeah.
is absolutely what I tell people, come in, get it fixed, and then go donate it wherever you want.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So a general recommendation, and I think we have found this to be true as well, I would recommend reaching out to your local library for hosting. So they've been strong components, and so thank you for that. Another question for all of you, how do you kind of decide how much time is allotted for each repair? Is that something that you sort of have a thought ahead of time, or how do you handle, the different times? Backwards, Bobbie.
I thought you were going to say Robbie for a second. I was like, oh no, which one of us? um, so when we're booking appointments, it's a 20-minute appointment. When I send my volunteers their, instructions and reminders, it includes this, you can refuse a repair for any list of reasons. If you're not comfortable fixing that item, if, like anything at all, if it's too dirty, if it's out of your skill set, as one of the other presenters mentioned, people are bringing things in that are, a last ditch effort to save it from the garbage. So if you can't fix it, we don't owe them anything. And as part of that, there is a reminder that you can tell, if you spend 20 minutes working on this item, you can then tell them, I've already spent 20 minutes. I can't keep working on this item. I'm not sure how often that actually happens. I think most of the time volunteers will continue to work on it if they can. But, we remind volunteers that you can call it quits after 20 minutes. That's as much as I can do from a distance, really.
Rob.
With our survey, we go back to our repair techs and we say, listen, of course, what went right, what went wrong. Our sewers demand 30 minutes minimum. And so, like I said, if we have 4 sewers, we'll throw 3 on the booking and we'll use the 4th one for a spare just to do overlap. And of course, by the end of the day, it gets so busy that we stop bookings for the last slot. Jewelry told us 15 minutes. So everybody's got their other ones. Bike repairs are intermittent. They don't know. And most others are all half hour.
Thank you. Les?
Because we're entirely drop-in, it's not really an issue, but we do encourage people to come early because you don't know how long it's going to take. Often on problematic fixes, if it's getting towards the end of the day, we'll double team it. Got a couple of people working on it just to try to speed it up.
Okay. Keegan?
Yes, it's similar to Les, so just with not having bookings, and we kind of just, it depends on the type of repair. We've got some tables that are like electronics and small appliances and sewing. They typically have a lineup for the majority of the day. So we try and keep them smaller. At the end of the day, it's a volunteer's time. So everyone just kind of uses their own judgment to try and evaluate whether or not this is just a kind of a minor fix or a quick fix, or is this a complete overhaul? Yeah, because then the intent is not to be rebuilding things, but to be making repairs.
Okay, thank you. So we've got about 5 minutes left. I would like to give each of you the chance to just give us final thoughts to anybody who might want to be trying to establish their own repair cafe. Also, somebody asked for Rob's contact information. So if you could drop that in the chat, that would be good. So Keegan, what final thoughts do you have for somebody who's looking at starting up something?
It's a good time. It's always one of those, like, we go from 10 to 4. It always ends up being a bit of a busy day, but it's also one of those days that at the end of it, you're looking forward to the next one. The biggest thing for me is always just having that conversation with people that want to be volunteers or don't think they want to be volunteers about what it actually looks like. Just because it's not near as intimidating as, and I am guilty. I was one of those people that was intimidated by it right off the bat, but it's been very good and it's very well received. The people, whether you fix stuff or not, they walk out of there very happy and very thankful.
Thanks, Keegan. We do have a hand up, Digital Pastor. I don't know your name, but did you want to ask a question?
Hello. Well, thank you very much. I've done the Repair Cafe here in Lloydminster for 3 years, and some people here says, why can't we have it more than once a year? And we've done it at the library since the library is now at the mall here in Lloydminster, and it's been great. I even rebuilt a whole toolbox just for it. So yeah, it just would be nice to have it more than once a year here in Lloydminster, as a lot of
Okay.
people around here has been saying, because it's been great. We've repaired an ice machine, whatnot, a whole bunch of things
Mm-hmm.
all at the same time. So
Okay. Thank you for that. Yeah.
it's been a great program that I've been in, and I'm glad to be part of it and helping out on this end.
Thank you. We hear you. Okay. We'll see if there's any interest in more frequent events at Lloyd. Les, final thoughts?
Yeah, I think each repair cafe is going to be different based on the community. The community is quite different here than it is in Saskatoon or Yorkton or Melville or wherever. We tend to get a lot of seniors in ours, people that just can't afford to buy something new and are really benefiting from the repair service.
Thank you. Les, final thoughts?
I just
Sorry.
did.
Sorry, Rob. Rob was in my
Um,
head, but Les came out of my mouth. Pardon
for
me.
us, find those key people that could be your volunteers. I mean, I always think about the repair side. I forget about the people side. And so now we've got a coordinator because one of the things I forgot is acknowledging the volunteers, taking them out for pizza, making sure there's that bonding experience. And a lot of them, and one lady did it in an interview. She says she really doesn't have a big social circle. And so she looks forward to this once a month to do sewing. And it's just kind of like aha moment for me, realizing I need to treat my volunteers much better.
Thank you. Bobbie, final thoughts?
My advice if somebody's looking to do it is kind of terrible and just do it. If you've got, a 3 hour time block and just a sewing repair station that gets the idea out there, that gets people showing up and seeing how it would go, that, gives you a little bit of experience. It doesn't have to be a, 20 volunteer, 10 station event in order for it to be a great first event, something. 3 items saved from the landfill is 3 items saved from the landfill. So my advice would be just do it.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much to all of our speakers and to everyone who joined us today and for the great questions. We appreciate your participation and we look forward to hearing about repair cafes starting up in Saskatchewan and also elsewhere. Take care, everyone. Bye now.
Thank you.